It's never this quiet at my other job. The City of Southport Board of Aldermen meeting, March 10th, 2022, is now called to order. I'd like to welcome those who are here in person and also those who are watching at home. Our invocation tonight, this will be by Reverend Deacon Sally Learned of the Southport Oak Island Interchurch Fellowship. This will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. But first, I would like to begin with a moment of silence. This is for the passing of city employee, Mr. Kenny Price, a beloved Southport community member, and also a moment of silence for the victims of the war in Ukraine. Prayers for a peaceful solution there in this difficult, war-torn country. So please stand. Thank you, Reverend Learned. Before we have public comment, I would just like to recognize a few city employees because our meeting is different now, and you'll see why. First of all, I'd like to thank Eileen Hennessy for these Microsoft Surface tablets and the technology. She's she's masterful in what she does in IT, and she is a tremendous teacher and gave a great tutorial and presentation. I want to thank the city clerk, Dorothy Dutton, to helping us get through this maze of information. We use Civic Clerk software board portal, and our board members are using this tonight as well. I want to thank Elena Dale. She's with the community building, also tourism and communication. She gave an audiovisual update on the best system we can use for this building. And I want to thank Lisa Anderson, communication strategies and goals for city government and how we communicate within our government and with our citizens. She went over the improved website. We have Southport Connected and many other features that will improve the information and communication with our citizens. So and the biggest thing is that the information the Board of Aldermen has, you have. You can access it. What the board sees, you see. We have the Vive board to my left, which is a great improvement. And this is the direction we began in January 2020 with Tourism and Communications Director Randy Jones. And the city has put in place an array of technological advances for the dissemination of information, and this will evolve. I want to thank the city manager, Mr. Hargrove, for coordinating this effort, and I want to thank you, the Board of Aldermen, for your willingness to embrace this new challenge and opportunity in information technology. So we are improving, and I just want to make note of that and thank the city staff for helping us to evolve and to adapt and to join the 21st century in the information technology age. So item D, public comment. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. I have several individuals that have signed up. The first is Donna Fullwood.
Welcome. If you go up to the microphone, state your name, address, make sure the microphone is on, and your topic you would like to discuss.
Okay. My name is Donna Fullwood. My address is 807 Cape Harbor Drive, Southport. The topic that I wanted to speak on was the annexation of the property that you had listed, number 2201. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you today, but I would like to say that I'm opposed to this annexation. Tract 1, which was lot 13, 11, 12, 13, and 14 of Southport Heights on Lord Street, and Tract 2, 6,136 square feet made from lot 16, block 9. I think that's correct. The reason, yes, sir.
I apologize for the interruption, but I want to make sure, are you talking about item 4 on the agenda, the BB annexation?
Oh, I think that's what that is.
Okay. We're going to have a public hearing on that, and that will be the best time for you to make. Yeah, and this is on North Caswell. Is this the same?
That's correct.
Sir, if I might, Mrs. Fullwood is not able to stay for the whole meeting.
Oh,
So
okay.
she wanted to speak now.
All right. Okay. Well, then go ahead and
you.
finish, and we'll remember your remarks. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. The reason I'm opposed to this is because It really doesn't make any sense to me to annex properties which would be connecting to our public sewer and water system, especially when our sewer system is not functioning at 100%. These would have access to connecting to our sewer system. At the previous Board of Aldermen workshop last month, it was noted that the pump station on 9th Street was functioning at only 25% and in need of repairs and upgrades. 2 other pump stations were mentioned, but I really don't know where they were, but they showed pictures of the sewer pipes, which were in desperate need of repair. The properties for annexation are on the side of town where that pump station is. The current E. coli level is over 2,394.6 parts per million above what is accepted as normal. And so and the facts I got from the Cape Fear River Watch website, I think polluting our creeks and watersheds is not only a disservice to the humans here, the people here, because people can get sick. It also destroys the safe and natural reproductive life of our estuaries and our creeks. And I'd like you to consider not annexing this property or any others at this point until our existing sewer system is corrected and fixed. Because I don't think that if we can't handle added sewer or structures or houses adding to the sewer system, it's not good for our community. It's not good for our land. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Your comments were perfect for public comment because it was more than just about annexation, so thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Madam Clerk.
Brian Stevens.
Sure, how's that? You all hear me? Good evening, Board of Aldermen and Mr. Mayor. I'm Brian Stevens and live in Cades Cove in Southport. And I'm a kayaker, a paddleboarder, and a canoeist. I moved here because of the paddling access to big water, and I love it. Looking at this week's State Port Pilots article, I wanted to comment on it. Under the header of Southport Board of Aldermen, kayak launch awaits next step. Folks, we need a launch. It's as simple as build it and they will come. How often have you seen our demographics depicted on some glossy cover of some advertising for coastal living with folks paddling with huge smiles on their face? This mayor and his predecessor both assured me a kayak launch of becoming a reality. I ask you, please make it happen. I said build it and they will come. It's more like build it because they are here. How many of you have neighbors with kayaks in their garage that go unused? A dream unfulfilled because we don't have friendly and safe coastal access launches. To reiterate the State Port Pilots article, and I just wanted to quote it a little bit, the future of the kayak launch came up during financial discussions with the Board of Aldermen February 17th, where several board members weighed in on the subject. Alderman Tom Lombardi and newly elected Alderman Rich Alt both felt the kayak launch wasn't a priority when compared to infrastructure issues facing the city, such as road repairs and sewer lines. I don't see how we can talk about a kayak launch when we have so many other things to deal with, said Lombardi. A kayak launch to me is the least important in my opinion. Alt echoed similar sentiments. Hargrove, Alderman Lowe Davis, supported the idea of moving forward with a kayak launch sooner than later. I don't see any obstacle to going ahead as quickly as we can. It would be great to have the kayak launch in place before the end of the summer. This is a much needed asset for recreation here. Going back over to cost, Hargrove estimated the kayak launch could cost us approximately as much as $150,000. Alderman Mosteller pushed back on Hargrove's estimate and said that without a project design, it would be impossible to know how much a kayak launch would cost. I think it's premature to assess until we understand the cost of it. Folks, we don't need to spend that kind of money. Just a dirt, sand, gravel ramp, keep it simple, safe access is what we need now. I'm not getting any younger. My boat's not getting any lighter. Be well, paddle often. Glory to Ukraine.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Stevens. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Vicki Morrison.
I'm Vicki Morrison, also from Cades Cove, and I'm here to address infrastructure. I'm one of a team of 4, Linda Baker, John Morrison, and Steve Rice, who's ill tonight and couldn't come. And we are volunteers with the Creek Watchers program at Cape Fear River Watch. For the last 2 years, we've been once a month testing our creeks and waterways. And we have been in communication with the city at times also. Our readings for the 9th Street location, Cottage Creek, have been yielding very high for E. coli, and you all know what that is. The readings for the past 6 months have averaged 696 MPN, while the EPA standard for recreational waters is 235 NPN. Not only are they high, but last week we found a culvert that was across the street that was impacted and blocked with a dead beaver floating in it. And it's affecting the wetlands. I don't know if y'all can see that. And if we don't clear that, we're going to lose our street there. So the city is not responsible for that, according to our city officials. It's a state problem, but it's right here in Southport. Our town is going through a lot of growth, and I know that we're having tons of debate about what to do with our money, our infrastructure. City Manager Hargrove has advocated for lift stations, and Alderman Lombardi has also stressed the urgency for that. But without a proper sewage systems, the roads and the water are going to be affected. We are imploring this group to put the issue front and center and making this paramount. It's just not too much fun to float on water that's full of E. coli and enterococcus, and you don't want to eat the fish that are out of this Cape Fear either. Has there ever been a comprehensive planning survey done regarding our sewage infrastructure and all the needed improvements? Perhaps we should take a little of our extra monies, if we have any, and do that study. Most recently, our team has noticed that the lift station on Moore Street, which is near Bonnet's Creek, is also an old system. And of course, we all know that's right across the street from the Cape Fear. So last week, one of our people went into the culvert. That's a sewer pipe that's in there. It's breaking down. I mean, I know everybody knows our sewer pipes are bad, but again, that's going into our Cape Fear. As more and more developers come into Southport, would it not be a good idea to change or charge the developers of these new housing developments an additional fee that could be used for our infrastructure upgrades? In some states, Florida, am I right? They can go $5,000 to $10,000 a house, a new house. If this is passed on to the buyers in the form of an impact fee, wouldn't this help our infrastructure? And would surely help us with all of these problems that we're having in our lift stations and sewage system. Our poor little city faces a lot of problems with its infrastructure, and we believe the time to face it is now with proper planning and budgeting. And it's our hope that as we go forward, we'll take a laser focus on upgrading our lift stations before we do anything else without a Band-Aid fix. And hopefully it won't be pushed. I just read tonight's pilot that y'all are going to push it into the fall planning. I don't think we have that kind of time. I think we're spending $300,000 a year to repair these things, and we're not repairing them. So I'm hoping you'll act now and not wait till fall to talk about it again. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, and just for the general public information, that we recently held a workshop, and there was an extensive study on the sewer system in our city, and that if any of you have not seen it, you can certainly pull that up under the workshop. And so this is something we are looking at, quite efficiently. Takes time to produce these type projects, but we are aware of it, we're studying it, and we are moving forward on this, and it is a budgetary priority. So thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk?
Bill Fairley.
Welcome, Judge Fairley. And thank you for bringing Mr. Bill Ferris with you.
That was truly my pleasure. Mr. Mayor, Bill and I go back to when we were in law school together. Actually, before that, he and I are dear friends. My name is Bill Fairley, and I live at 101 Live Oak Turn. I've been listening to the previous speakers talk about matters that are sort of associated with what I need to speak to you about tonight. I want to talk to you a little bit about my views on subdivision and rezoning, not necessarily from a policy perspective, anything written down, but kind of an attitudinal approach to those issues. I have watched over the course of the last decade or so as major subdivisions come to town. And what I've noticed is a fairly consistent pattern about how they evolve. The developers come into town, they buy up the land they want to buy at whatever market price they have based upon its zoning at the time they buy it. And then they immediately come to the town and ask for the town to rezone. And their pitch to prior boards has been very consistent, every one of them. They say to you that they are concerned particularly about the environment, the ecology, and that they will be good stewards of the land. And they finish their pitch with sort of the siren song that appeals to virtually every board in this state, and that is that they're going to jack up your tax base. And I understand that that is an extraordinarily appealing pitch to towns that are always in need of additional funding. The problem is that once they get the rezoning that they want, which is always for a much more dense usage of the land than what was originally zoned, they forget about their pledge to be good stewards of the land. And they come in with bulldozers and then heavy equipment, and they clean it out. There's not a tree, there's not a bush, there's not a blade of grass left standing. I presume they do that because that's the most efficient financial way for them to develop in high-density developments. But I know what it leaves us with. It leaves us with land that doesn't have trees on it, contributing to all the problems of infrastructure that you've heard about. And more importantly, at least from my perspective, is that it leaves us looking like every other town from Miami to Maine. They build mass production homes on high-density zone property. And I think it's a shame. Frankly, I think it's a shame. So, what I hope this board will do as you deal with issues of subdivision and rezoning in the future is perhaps to have a little more skepticism of developers as they come to town. Keep in mind, if you would, that they knew exactly how that land was zoned before they bought it. They come to you and ask you to make it infinitely more valuable simply by an administrative act of rezoning. I think the town is poorly served by that. And with that, I think I'll leave you to your more important business tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your good comments. Madam Clerk?
Donnie Joyner.
Good evening to all. Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, I am just here to say thank you to the City of Southport Tourism Department for February's Brunson County Black History Symposium. This was our second year of it being virtual, but in the 10 years of its existence, the City of Southport has stood shoulder to shoulder with us in helping us put this on, and there's no way I can say thank you, but just say thank you. We look forward to having another partnership next year. Hopefully it'll be live, because I can truly say that Southport has supported programs on the Black community for quite a long time. And I found one that was back in February the 7th, 1998, which was a big program. And it takes efforts with everybody to get a program to come off nicely. And for this, I say thank you and I salute you.
Thank you, Mr. Joyner, and we will be here in February 2023 live, and I look forward to attending. It was a marvelous, even though it was virtual, it was marvelous. Donnie Joyner is the historian, and the city will always be a part of that program and the proclaiming of that wonderful African American heritage and culture. So thank you. Madam Clerk.
Laura Sharkey.
Welcome, Ms. Sharkey.
My name is Laura Sharkey. I reside at 432 Cades Trail, Southport. My topic is strategic planning in the sewer system. Southport desires to strive for excellence in our government, project a positive attitude, involve our community, and protect our citizens by ensuring a safe, secure, and tranquil quality of life with controlled and orderly growth. Southport desires to have an affordable quality of life while maintaining its quiet residential atmosphere and protecting the city's assets. Population growth should continue at a moderate rate. Southport desires to sustain existing businesses and create new jobs and other businesses. Specifically, Southport will endeavor to accomplish the following: preserve the city's character, historic character, protect the city's shoreline vista, continue to support a vibrant central business district, preserve the city's residential areas, and protect the city's areas of environmental concern consistent with 15A North Carolina Assembly Code 7H. I've just read the vision statement for the Southport CAMA plan. While this vision was written against the backdrop of land use and development, it has been utilized as the overall Southport vision statement. I do believe the portion of the vision to protect our citizens by ensuring safe, secure, and a tranquil quality of life has been the basis for many services and budget appropriations. And that's appropriate because there are certainly other conditions other than land use that impact resident safety, security, and tranquility. Communications, a topic that was just most recently brilliantly discussed by Elisa Anderson on Tuesday, is vital to the well-being of Southport. However, for some unclear reason, this Board of Aldermen is having great difficulty communicating a strategy for ensuring a safe, secure, and tranquil quality of life for our residents. The abrupt end to the last Board of Aldermen workshop left residents wondering, well, what are we going to do? It is disappointing tonight to see that our agenda is missing the words that would relate to a strategic plan, setting priorities, the sewer system. What I heard communicated at the workshop on February 17th, after the city manager's presentation on the current condition of Southport sewer system, was, we want our cake and to eat it too. What I mean by that is, except for Alderman Lombardi, no one else wanted to state that repairing our sewer system should be our #1 priority. Points were made about needing to have cost estimates and how the county is going to study the possibility of a merger. Those are weak reasons to not address the leaky, fragile, unsafe sewer system. The idea to wait for a study by the county on the possibility of being merged into the county system is ridiculous. Consider what has already been revealed about the condition of our sewer and water pipes, the manholes and the lift stations. The county has no good reason to take over our system as it is. It would be a bad business decision on their part. Besides, our customer base is so small, they will not realize the benefit of more customers, and they do not need our existing system to serve the expanding needs of the county. The merger study will happen simply because we requested it and the county is being accommodating. But I am confident there is no interest in merging Southport's broken system into the county. So let's return to the responsibility that is on the shoulders of the Board of Aldermen. Adopting a strategic plan to protect the citizens or residents by ensuring a safe, secure, and tranquil quality of life. Strategy. The science of planning and directing operations or actions to accomplish an objective. This involves identifying the prime objective, making decisions to allocate resources, materials, and funding to accomplish the prime objective. If the prime objective of this Board of Aldermen is to be popular at social outings, then paying to study dredging or how to build a kayak launch is the way to go. However, if the prime objective is to ensure safe, secure, and tranquil quality of life for residents, then we have a big problem. The lack of a strategic plan, a plan that addresses our lack of infrastructure resiliency, means we are failing. The map that was shown as the workshop showed the parts of town where the old clay pipe exists. The condition of this pipe is very poor. The manholes are leaking, causing us to have to pay an additional $300,000 in wastewater treatment costs because of infiltration and inflow that have been identified. We have 5 sewer lift stations that need repair. Every year, we are told to prepare for hurricane season. What are the odds that the rain from a hurricane will overwhelm one or more of these weakened clay pipes, resulting in a catastrophic failure? And which street could it happen to impact? Wouldn't that just be wonderful for the businesses of East Moore Street to have the pipe fail on their street? How about the residents of Lord Street and Caswell Streets? Some of these people have been paying for this system to be maintained for the last 40 years or more. Now they have potholes in the street, and they're at risk of having a sewer line collapse. What would be the convenient section of Atlantic Avenue to have a collapse? Why is there no communication this board is ready to go through a process to adopt a plan of action using the appropriate steps of strategic planning? Asking about a bond rating is not the first step. On the city webpage, there are also requests for bid notices related to our engineering needs. Pump station installations, a sidewalk installation, a request for an engineering firm that can provide engineering for multiple disciplines. It is interesting to see this because there is no stated plan. So what's going on? Are we fishing for prices so we can decide whether or not we can afford to hire an engineer? That should not be our approach. Is the Board of Aldermen committed to providing a safe, secure, tranquil quality of life for Southport residents? If so, show us. What should happen? The Board of Aldermen should set a date for a strategic plan workshop. Adopt a plan with the focus of serving the residents by providing a safe, secure, and tranquil quality of life. In the workshop, commit to the process. Don't cut the corners. State the prime objective, set goals, identify action steps. Commit the balance of the current capital improvement fund to repair and improve infrastructure. This could include paying for an engineer to oversee the entire sewer system upgrade. I will say, and this is not to be a blame game, it is very, very true that this situation with our sewer system did not result overnight. This is not the result of this board. This is the result of neglect and a lack of oversight for multiple years. But while it is not something this board has caused, it is their responsibility to take action. To disregard information that has been laid out would be irresponsible and negligent. I am asking the Board of Aldermen to take action to make things better. Be the board that provides the good foundation for this town to be resilient. In closing, I want to also remind everyone that the Board of Aldermen is accountable to the residents of Southport, as well as the local government council, the state auditor, and to our state representatives, Bill Rabin and Charlie Miller, who have helped secure state funding for us to make some repairs. I'm pretty confident that those people and entities prioritize fixing the sewer system over dredging and a kayak launch.
Again, just for clarification for our citizens, strategic planning has been mentioned numerous times in the workshops that we've held. And if you, it's interesting, one person said we're not doing anything about the sewer and they don't have a study, and then we have another speaker that gives all this information about the sewer, including the I&I and that type thing, which came from that workshop. So we are looking at this, and the city manager has mentioned this board is studying strategic planning, and it is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. City government doesn't move at lightning speed, but we are moving forward. And if anyone would just look at my recent update, you don't have to watch the video, just read the text. You will see in there what we are doing, and there are documents there, and there's lists, there's programs, there's strategic ideas, prioritization, goals, and we are moving forward in that regard. So strategic planning is a part of what we're doing as a board. And if you cannot find this information online, call me. I'll be glad to discuss it with you. Send us an email, any of the board members, the city manager, call him. But we are moving forward. The sewer is an important issue. It's not the only issue, but it is one of the top issues, and we are addressing it. We don't want high coliform counts, E. coli and that type thing. We know about these lift stations, these pump stations, and so, but we are moving forward. There is money available. As you know, the American Rescue Plan Act, it's a generational funding act, and cities are allowed up to $15 million if they qualify for infrastructure improvements. And we are applying for that money. And we do have a distress system, and merging and regionalization with the county is, I campaigned on that many, many times, and it is the way to go. And we have to improve our sewer system before it will be taken over. But regionalization of services is I think, the move in the right direction. The county has agreed with this. They're cooperating with us on this, and it will improve the infrastructure in the long. It's the future. It's the long-term goal. And so that's what we're looking at, and that is part of our strategic plan. So please look at all the information that is out there, and I appreciate the comments immensely. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Pastor Toblin.
Welcome, Ms. Tobler. It's good to see you.
Would you please turn your mic on?
To the mayor, the city manager, the board, everybody in your rightful place. My name is Lena Tobler. I live on 215 West 11th Street. And my topic is, does we matter? And all the people that came up and spoke, they spoke on the topic that I was going to talk about. I have some study that I did in the last week, but I got a phone call from the left home and they threw me off track. But the main thing is I wanted to talk to about what? The houses that's being built now, so somebody say $600 for a permit. But what is that when you are about 12 feet from another house? When you can reach out your window and touch someone else? What is when you are building so close to a lady house that's 85 years old with a wheel way up there, getting her scared and running, thought that the wood's going to fall on her house when you just can walk between it? I built my house here in '81, and I had to have a measure from the center of the road. That's why I knew where the center was. You showed me. From the center road to my house on both sides. When I added to my house, I had to do the same thing. Now, let me tell you, at this time, on my right side was nothing but woods. It didn't dawn on me right then, just go ahead and get that piece. That's what I got enough, you know. But I realize now it's the same thing that happened to them, it's going to happen to me eventually. So I would say, do we matter? I mean, yes, you have the right to build on your land what you want to build if it's legal. But when you are engaging your neighbor, something's wrong. We don't care. And like when men say, when they come in to buy property, they already studied that property. They know what it is, and they know what's going on. You just don't know because nobody cares. And like I told one person is that they buy a land and keep it for a period of time, but they already got what they want to put on it. So now here we in Southport. Like I said, I built in '81. I was born and raised here. Out of 16 children, I'm the 13th. I used to sit on my porch and hear Mr. Lewis Hardy's, if somebody was filled with him, and my daddy talked about the swim house. Mr. Luther and my daddy was just like this, from here to Florida. And down to the swim house, when they took us down there, we had to know the difference between the swim here and another. You know, I didn't ever know what it meant anyway, so I just went because I was told to. But now as we look around on this 22, what in the world do we have a crab that's born way over in the island here in Southport? The water's changing. Why are we down here on this dock catching fish that shouldn't be here? It's a wake-up call. And the people that come in building, they don't care. They're going to get their money, they're going to leave. If you keep your eyes on the other small town up on the shore, you'll see how the sewer's backed up. A lady used to walk with me every morning, and she said that she sold her property. And she moved down here because it was so nice and quiet. She said, when she moved down here, so her daughter called her from off this and said, Mom, guess what? The sewer's backed up all over town. Now, if our sewer, I know it's two different course I'm saying, but all is wrapped in together. Now, if that would happen to us, and all these houses together, even a fire, these houses not going to have no, what's called a fire wall to keep them from spraying. I asked the man, he said, no, they don't. So if one house get gone down, what do you think of something else? This lady got a fence right here on her house like this. If she can't get out the front part, she's not going to be able to get out those windows. And she'll burn up in there. I think someone was out, I don't know who it was. Someone was out the other day and they was taking pictures. But last year, my ceiling failed. And I went outside, he was building the complex over for me. And he had this big old thing that, I guess, to seal the road. And when my house shook, because mine's on a slab, I went outside and I talked to him. I said, what you doing, tear my house down? He said, no, just laugh, you know. About 4 weeks after that, my ceiling fell. Called my insurance people. They came, inside, outside, around. He said, I don't see how you fell. Because I believe that when he was out there working, that's why. So they wouldn't pay him. And I called the city manager. I don't know the same one we have now, or was it back then? And I asked them a question. I said, is any way can you find out when they had to build the house and those equipment, did he do anything to the ground? Did he shake the ground or did he move the ground? He said, no. I said, well, is it possible for you to come out here and look around and see, you know, this things has happened different in the world now. Can you come out? He told me that I have to get my own. He's not coming out, and he's not paying for no one to come out there and search the ground. Now, see, when he said that, he left his position, and I left mine. I told him, I didn't ask you to pay for nothing for me. I want you to come out and see what's going on out here. Because something's going on. And I say, you don't care enough? I said, I pay. To that. I just told him that, hey, it would make me feel better if you would say, okay, I'm coming to see what you're talking about. Everybody else came, looked, but no city manager. The only thing he could say, I'm not going to pay the city tax on something that you should be keeping up. The more he talked, the more I stepped down. Not from God down. Not from God. My last words with him was, if it don't change, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. But you know, do we matter? These contractors, they money. Sometimes these buildings that they got building these houses and stuff, some of them you can't even understand. They don't talk. But you get one that you can understand, they'll tell you a lot of things. But I think that something should be done. I mean, I talk to different people, and they say, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. That's what they were saying. It doesn't matter. They're going to do what they say anyway. But see, I know somebody's a little bit higher than anybody down here. You know, sometimes people don't want to speak up because they're scared that you can do something for them or against them. But see, I don't worry about that because I know I'm covered. But I want to read something to you right here. I'm going to sit down. We also matter because we can show God's love to others. A letter of God's love. We are not here on earth to make money and to retire in style, but to show God to another by showing them his love. And if you read Psalm, it would tell you, I'm grateful, loving God, that I'm matter to show you. Help me to show you to others. So those who have power, those who can do something about it, you need to come out and check these houses and check these houses that's going up and see they're in the right place. Or maybe we should get together, they do it anyway, and change the barrier. Because it was 2 lots, now it's 1. When I built it was 2, now it's 1. But if you don't believe or understand that, and I say, just take a walk around the houses that's being built and just see how close they are. So if we don't do something about it now, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. And I love Southport. But just like the people that love them coming in, there's some moving out. There's some moving out. Say, this isn't what I come here for. And some moving out. So if you don't understand what I said, let's go into prayer. God will show you what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tobler. Very eloquent. You do matter, and we certainly will come by and visit with you. And thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk.
The only one I have left is one that was sent in to me earlier, and it is from Kathy Cabral on West Street here in Southport. Her message is, I am sure that I am not alone among the citizens of Southport in my concern about the further development of indigo plantation. Based on publicly available information, Project Indigo could have a crippling effect on the city, its already struggling infrastructure, and the citizens of Southport. It is my understanding that the city has hired consultants to complete impact studies of the project. What were the parameters of these studies? What questions have the consultants been asked to consider? How are the impacts to be quantified? When will they be available for public review and comment? Further, who among the city employees and aldermen has the mayor appointed to lead the evaluation of the impact of Project Indigo to the city of Southport? In the interest of transparency, I believe that the citizens of Southport should have access to the framework of these studies, the questions to be addressed, and their results. How does the city plan to provide that access, and within what time frame? I would welcome a response to my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cabral, for your comments. Those impact studies are public documents, and they will be available to all our citizens. And the city is working with the developer through city staff, and there's a process that's followed, as you know, and it begins with going through city staff and the planning board, public hearings, ultimately to the Board of Aldermen. So there will be plenty of time for the public to review, public hearing, public comment, and that type of thing. Anyone else? Anyone else here that would like to speak? Okay, thank you. Now, as you know, as part of our strategic plan, one of the things I instituted is that there would not be a 3-minute limit on public comment as there was in the past. And I appreciate everyone's patience. I think they were all great comments tonight. And we hopefully will continue to keep this dialogue going. So thank you. Item E is approval of the agenda. Yes, and I need to make one comment on that if you... Here we go. The agenda tonight, I describe it as a soulful and emotional one because we're recognizing 2 members of our city government who have served for decades and who will be leaving. It's commemorative. We have the 80th anniversary of the John D. Gill. It's celebratory. We have Women's History Month, as well as we're celebrating one of our awards to one of our police officers. And it's informative. We have the presentation by the East Coast Greenway and also B-City. There is one change to the agenda in terms of the order of the in special recognition. We will do Women's History Month first. Ladies should go first, and we're going to do that one first. So anyway, now I'll entertain a motion to approve. Who do we have? Oh, and one other item. I think if you look, Aldermen and citizens, it is on here, and you'll see it. Item on previous agendas, we did not have it, but on this one we have item 6. I want to make sure you all have that. Selection and appointment of new city attorney.
Yeah, I'd like to amend this to remove item 11 from the consent agenda, and we can have conversation about it, but I'd like to maybe postpone this to next month.
Well,
the street sweeper.
yes, but we already
You've got a motion and a
have
second.
a motion
so
and a
you're
second.
gonna have to vote on that first.
Yeah, let's vote on. I guess we'll vote on it if the Alderman, you want to withdraw? Okay. Okay, so they're going to withdraw the motions, and you would like to...
Yeah, I'd like to remove item 11 on the consent agenda.
Okay.
The street sweeper. I'd like to move that to the actual agenda, and I'd propose even moving that into next month.
Could you state what that item is?
The street sweeper.
The purchase of street sweeper.
So the motion is to approve the agenda with moving the proclamation of Women's History Month to number 1, and also removing authorization to purchase the street sweeper. Take that off the consent agenda and put it on the agenda for next month. Okay. All right, that is the motion by Alderman Carroll. Is there a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Okay. Motion carried. Thank you. Agenda is approved. Now our ethics statement. If any members know of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest concerning matters on the agenda, please so state at this time. Any conflicts? Okay. Thank you. Item F, approval of the consent agenda. Now, everyone should have this, including our citizens. You should have been able to access this online. There are now items on there except about the street sweeper. So if you would look at, we're approving the minutes of the regular Board of Alder meeting February 10th, the minutes from the special board workshop February 17th, and the resolution for surplus authority. And this resolution gives authority to the city manager and the finance officer to declare items or groups of similar items valued less than $30,000 as surplus. Then these items can be disposed of or sold according to the requirements in the general statutes. If approved, this authority would be used on items moving forward. This, of course, would include there being an ad in the paper about the sale of these items, and there'd be a 10-day period before they could be sold. So basically, you see that there's a police vehicle surplus, declaring fire equipment surplus, intent to donate a surplus fire truck, and there's donation of rescue equipment to the Southport Fire and Rescue, and the donation of life-saving equipment for the Waterfront. And I'll say more about that after we approve the consent agenda. So, do I have a motion? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, is there a second? Second by Mr. Lombardi. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you. Approval of the consent agenda. And in terms of the consent agenda, there's an item there, and this is has to do with the Helbig Foundation and Eagle Scout Jackson Ennis, who are going to put these life-saving waterfront rings, floating devices, in various parts of the waterfront. So, Jackson, if you would come up. Item G, special recognition. And we have 5 items on this. I received good advice from the alderman, in particular, Madam Alderman Lowe Davis. I follow instructions there. She's so helpful, as they all are. Anyway, we have, as I say, it's an honor for me to read these proclamations and to be up here for this. City of Southport Proclamation in honor of Women's History Month, March 2022. Whereas the City of Southport recognizes the month of March as Women's History Month, established in 1987 by Congress to celebrate the contributions American women have made to strengthen and lead the nation since its inception. Whereas Women's History Month honors women of every race, status, and ethnicity who have challenged the structures that have kept women underappreciated and underrepresented throughout history to establish an equal role for women, ensuring the value of equitable labor for future generations. Whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own suffrage, but at the forefront of every progressive social change movement in history, paving the way for future generations to enjoy the unalienable rights, duties, and responsibilities that are afforded to all citizens of the United States of America. And whereas each woman is extraordinary in her own way, proving that women working inside the home or outside the home in academia, science, technology, labor, government, or business maintain a critical role in every sphere of society. Whereas the city of Southport is the home of many remarkable women, including Margaret Taylor Harper, who was the first woman to run for lieutenant governor for the state of North Carolina. Now, therefore, I, Joseph P. Hadle, Mayor of the City of Southport, do hereby recognize March as Women's History Month to honor women everywhere for their outstanding achievements and invaluable contributions to society, proclaimed this 10th day of March, 2022. And I would like to recognize someone whose family I know well, and happy to see them here tonight. Cadet Major Emma Snap, if you would come up, please. Cadet Major Emma Snap, South Brunswick High School's Cougar Battalion Executive Officer, has been named the North Carolina State American Legion JROTC Candidate of the Year. Cadet Major Snap. Cadet Major Snap was nominated by American Legion Post 543 in St. James. She was selected based on her activities in Americanism, citizenship, youth activities, community involvement, participation in JROTC programs, award and decorations, physical fitness scores, and duty positions held. She's an avid softball player, health occupation student, and a junior firefighter with Oak Island Fire Department, with plans to become a firefighter paramedic after school. So congratulations, we salute you.
Mr. Mayor, could I add for
Please.
Women's History Month, the Southport Women's Club, of course, does something special to recognize Women's History Month each year. This year, and appropriate with Cadet Major Snap's recognition, the Women's Club has put together a display at the Southport Library of lots of pictures and information about women veterans who are here. And there are quite a few. So I hope you will go by, take a look at that, and of course, patronize the library. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. The next recognition is City of Southport proclamation on the commemoration of the 80th anniversary of the sinking of the tanker John D. Gill on March 12, 1942. Whereas on March 12, 1942, 3 months after the United States entered World War II, a German U-boat torpedoed and sank the oil tanker John D. Gill 25 miles off the coast of Southport. And whereas this inferno at sea, which could be seen from Southport's waterfront by the many citizens gathered there, 11 survivors with burn injuries were found and brought to J. Arthur Dozier Memorial Hospital, and 16 bodies were later found and brought to Southport, including Catalino Tingzon, whose body could not be returned to the Philippines and was interred in Northwood Cemetery by the citizens of Southport. And whereas in March of 1942, a group of women in Southport completed a Red Cross training course taught by the wife of Dr. Fergus, who was an RN, and they were certified as volunteer Red Cross nurses aides as part of the war effort. And whereas Josephine Johnson Hickman was one of those Southport Red Cross nurses aides who cared for the 11 injured and sick, and mourned the loss of the 16 seamen whose bodies were brought to shore in Southport. And whereas the city of Southport is sponsoring this ceremony of remembrance and is hosted by the Southport Historical Society, which includes in the program Mary Ellen Poole, Southport native and master of ceremony and board member of the Southport Historical Society, welcomed by Liz Fuller, president of the Southport Historical Society, Thomas J. Harrelson, Southport native, and whose grandfather, Joseph J. Laughlin, was hospital superintendent, will give the invocation. And Tish Hickman Hatem, granddaughter of Josephine Hickman, will speak in honor of her grandmother and the women who volunteered as Red Cross nurses' aides when World War II came to the shores of Southport. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Joseph P. Hatem, Mayor of the City of Southport, hereby recognize and proclaim the commemoration of the 80th anniversary of the sinking of the oil tanker John D. Gill with a ceremony on Saturday, March 12th, 2022, 4 o'clock in the afternoon at the Southport Community Building, followed by a wreath laying at the John D. Gill Memorial at Waterfront Park, and encourage all citizens who are able to attend this event and to remember this day and the courage of the men of the John D. Gill and the courage and compassion of the women Red Cross nurses aides of Southport, whose lives were forever changed 80 years ago. Proclaimed with solemn respect and admiration this 10th day of March, 2022. The third recognition, I will call on Chief Todd Coring concerning the award by the Rotary Club for Officer Jeffrey Jarrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. It's my honor tonight to stand before you and our citizens to let you know that Jared Jeffrey was named Southport Police Officer of the Year at a luncheon last month. He's doing a great job for Southport. Anytime I can stand before our town and brag on the police department, I take full time to do that. So he is one of many that are serving you folks every day and night here in town. He's a standout. He's been doing a great job since his start date. He's very active on our foot patrols and downtown. He's very proactive with community policing, which is something that we really try to strive on in here in Southport. So I just wanted to present him tonight on a high note. And Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you letting us have the floor for a few minutes. So thank you.
A wonderful award, and we're so proud of our police department. The next recognition is the recognition of Tish Hickman Hatem. So if you would please come up, and also with the board liaisons for the planning board, Karen Mosteller and Alderman John Allen, if you would please come forward also. I do not have adequate words to express what Madam Chairman Tish Hatem means to our city or to me. Brilliant, charming, beautiful, creative, and dynamic in how she has led the planning board for the betterment of our citizens and tackled the most difficult of issues with intelligence and integrity. Her father, Elliot Hickman, is a Southport native, as was her grandfather, Otto Hickman, who was a member of the Board of Aldermen. And Otto Hickman's grandfather was as a House of Representative member for Brunswick County and Southport. So a long tradition. Tish, we're all grateful for your service to our city. We welcome your continued presence as the First Lady of Southport.
and a really good dinner. It's been an honor and a pleasure for me to be a member of the Southport Planning Board. I've immensely enjoyed serving in the capacity to our city and our citizens. As a member serving 5 mayors, 4 boards of aldermen, 6 planners, 2 clerks, 2 building inspectors, 9 city managers, 1 city attorney, and 2 rewrites of our UDO. The opportunity to be a part of helping to shape our city as chairman of the planning board and working with many citizens, city staff, and elected officials has been a wonderful experience. I chose not to leave the planning board before the end of my term, which allowed me to assist with the most recent UDO revision, the tree ordinance, and ordinance for short-term rentals. I enjoyed the intellectual challenge of evaluating projects and developments. I want to commend this board and the alderman liaisons, Karen Mosteller and John Allen, for their support of the planning board. My years on the planning board and as serving as chairman will always hold a special place in my heart. As my 5th term was to expire, I chose not to reapply. My love for our city and service to our citizens will not end with my term, as I will continue to serve the city that we all are so fortunate to call home. Thank you.
It says, presented to Tish Hatem in grateful recognition of your valued contribution to the city of Southport, 2008, 2022. So there we go. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. This last recognition is one I would rather not read. And the friendship and the working relationship that I've had with Mr. Eisenberg over the years, and particularly as mayor, has been so rewarding. And I told him he couldn't leave until I left. So I'm going to still be here, but he's going to retire. So, City of Southport proclamation in honor of retiring City Attorney Mike Eisenberg. Whereas the City of Southport Board of Aldermen would like to recognize Mike Eisenberg for his dedicated service to the City of Southport as City Attorney. And whereas Mike Eisenberg grew up in Hickory, North Carolina, and is a graduate of UNC School of Law. And whereas Mike Eisenberg has lived in Brunswick County since 1976 and has served as the city attorney for 42 years. And whereas Mike Eisenberg has demonstrated excellence in the field of municipal law and has contributed time and effort in protecting the interests of the city of Southport. And whereas Mike will be missed for his commitment to the city, his extensive firsthand accounts and recollections about past city business, and his abundance of patience and kindness. Now, therefore, I, Joseph P. Hatem, Mayor of the City of Southport, on behalf of the Board of Aldermen and city staff, do hereby express our gratitude and admiration for Attorney Mike Eisenberg. We wish him all the best as he begins his retirement. Proclaimed this 10th day of March, 2022. Photo.
charging for these.
No, I'm not. It's been an honor and a privilege to be the town attorney for this long. Southport's the greatest town in North Carolina. And the main thing I remember about how it came about, one memory I have was when I got hired and came here in 1976, my partner, or the man who hired me, was the city attorney. And after I got here, after a year or two, he said, well, he thought, well, man, I don't have to go to the meetings anymore. I don't like to do that anyway. So he started sending me. And I can remember Mayor Eugene Tomlinson. It was about 1980 or 1981. And of course, every organizational meeting of the board, one of the things they do is back then was they appointed the city attorney. And Mr. Lameth had been the city attorney for a while, and they got to the point where they were going to appoint him, and Mayor Tomlinson looked over and said, why are we appointing him? We never see him anymore. And so they said, let's just go ahead and appoint Mike. So that was 40 years ago. Anyway, I've enjoyed it, and thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something? So as many of you know, I worked as the town planner prior to joining this board, and I've worked for several different municipalities throughout the state, and I've had a lot of interaction with various city and county attorneys, and I've never had the privilege to work with anybody that was as good as Mike was and is. He's going to continue to be good, just not as an attorney. But I can't tell you how much I relied on his wisdom, his knowledge, his experience, his kindness, his generosity, his patience. He was a real gem for Southport, and he's going to be truly missed.
Thank you, Alderman. Well, very well said. And you really cannot describe what Mr. Eisenberg has meant to this city. 40 years of service, of knowledge, of wisdom, of institutional knowledge. He knows the law so well. He knows Southport so well. He knows the people. And he has a background that will be unmatched in the annals of legal counsel for municipalities. So thank you again. Next item on our agenda is the East Coast Greenway NC 211 feasibility study. And I will call on our system developer specialist, Thomas Lloyd, for the introduction of Mr. Patrick Flanagan.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, sorry. I have a deep voice, so it just really carries. I'm just going to turn this off. All right, that sounds a little bit better. So I have the pleasure of introducing Patrick Flanagan, and he is with the Cape Fear Council of Governments. He is their regional planner as well as the Cape Fear RPO director. So the Cape Fear RPO is the Cape Fear Rural Planning Organization, which we are a member of, and we work with them to prioritize different projects in our region in the Cape Fear rural area. So Patrick is very vital in that to help us prioritize all of our projects along with NCDOT. So he really has a whole lot of breadth of knowledge when it comes to those kind of things. But what we're presenting tonight is the East Coast Greenway 211 feasibility project. And while Patrick's talking, I will act as his Vanna White and I will move the slides. So I'll do my best with that. But here's Patrick.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Mayor and Board, for giving me some time this evening. So just to quickly go over what the East Coast Greenway is, a 3,000-mile trail idea going from Maine all the way to Florida proposed as a greenway or multi-use path for that distance, and the idea is to create that connection along the entire East Coast. So this is an idea and a project that's been around for quite a few years. We're about 1,000 miles into actual trail on the ground out of the total 3,000 miles. So a section of that goes through coastal North Carolina. It enters Brunswick County at the ferry and goes out 17 towards South Carolina. So we wanted to take this opportunity to do a feasibility study to determine what is going to be the most likely and most useful path for that East Coast Greenway through Brunswick County, and particularly the NC 211 area, because of all the growth that is happening here right now. So if you go to the next one. How we did this is a typical planning study where NCDOT funded this project for us with participation from Brunswick County and the municipalities along this corridor, kind of hosted by us, the COG and the RPO at Cape Fear. And so we had a steering committee. We did public involvement through this process. We hired a consulting firm to come in and do all the detailed work, take a look at what's on the ground, and help us figure out what the best path forward is going to be. Go ahead. So, we created a vision for this. The East Coast Greenway is an established thing, so we wanted to kind of look at what do we want that to be here in Brunswick County. And so you can see there the vision and the goals of this idea, and, making sure that because this is something that is, from Maine all the way to Florida, it's serving a lot of people, but we also want to make sure that whatever we're doing here in our backyard for our portion is also going to serve the people here. And so you'll see that reflected in the goals. It's not just for the entire corridor. It really is something that can be an asset for the local folks as well. All right, go ahead. So this is here just kind of to show you the map, and in that idea of having something for the local area as well as the entire corridor of the East Coast Greenway, you'll see that there are some alternate routes here. We wanted to make sure that we had some loops and some things like that where it can be used locally for recreation and transportation to get you where you need to go, but also serve folks coming through who are trying to do that entire walk from Maine to Florida. And so you'll see a main line along NC 211, but also you'll see some areas where we branch off of there to provide some of those local connections and also get the people coming through to the attractions of the area so that they're really seeing the benefits of this area and the lovely coastal area that we're in here. So in the packet was the specific segments that are in Southport, and so again you'll see one route that kind of goes through town and another route that goes around the north side. And this is really envisioned as, like I said, being a greenway or a multi-use path, but we also have to recognize that as we get into the denser areas, the central business districts, the downtown areas, those established streets, that it may be a bike lane is the appropriate recommendation for that area. So you'll see some of the stuff specifically in Southport may not be that full 10-foot wide multi-use path, but something a little more appropriate for the area. You have a pretty established sidewalk network. We're trying to work in concert with that and not, do anything crazy that's going to disrupt a lot of the businesses or homes. So I just want to kind of make that clear, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have about this.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have one about there's a cost estimate in this. Is this going to be paid for by North Carolina Department of Transportation, or does each jurisdiction pay for it? How does the cost come about?
Great question. So this, again, is just a planning document. There are cost estimates in here. In the full plan that Thomas has and can distribute to you guys, there's an appendix that actually has the quantities so that we can project those very accurately. But this is a document that kind of gets your foot in the door. Once you have an adopted plan, you can then apply to NCDOT for funding. You can also apply to other grant opportunities, and they always like to see that you have an adopted document, that you did the legwork before you're applying for money. This is not at all going to encumber you guys to spend money. You don't have to build any of this. This isn't that kind of obligation. These are ideas we would like to see, but it's going to kind of be up to everybody individually, the county, the towns, to apply for grant money, apply to DOT's prioritization process to try to get them to fund it. Another thing with having this adopted plan is NCDOT just instituted what they call the Complete Streets Policy. And this is where if they're doing a roadway project and you have a planning document that says you also want bike lanes or a sidewalk or a multi-use path, DOT will pay for those accommodations in addition to the roadway work. So that's a new policy under DOT where typically they'd be coming to the municipality asking for a 20% match or something of that nature. Under the Complete Streets Policy, that would be free to the municipality. So we want to make sure, and we did when we did this document, that this will get us in the door there with that Complete Streets and will qualify us for that Complete Streets Policy.
Thank you very much. That was very clear.
Good. Yes, ma'am.
How many towns in North Carolina roughly are involved in it, municipalities?
In the East Coast Greenway?
Yes. Well, just in North Carolina, yes.
More than I could count. There's actually two routes. The main route goes through the Raleigh-Durham area and goes down into South Carolina. And North Carolina is very unique in that they saw the opportunity to have a coastal branch, as they call it. And so it really, there's one route that goes all the way through kind of the central area of the state, and then we have this other coastal route. So, I mean, I couldn't even put a number of towns along both of those routes. So it's a pretty extensive project.
So municipalities are hearing this talk across our state in terms of working towards this goal of connectivity and that type of
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
I have a question. If we could go back to the map for segment, I believe, 9A.
Yes, ma'am.
The red, I think it's the next one. There you go. I think that's it. Anyway, it's the red line is designated as proposed off-road path. Could you say more about that? How do you do the off-road?
Yes, ma'am. So that segment is proposed to be multi-use trail, and kind of by definition, that is off-road. It generally runs parallel and very close to the road, but would be separated by some kind of ditch or grass area, and so it's considered off-road, whereas a bike lane or a sidewalk is on-road because they're physically touching or on top of the road. So it's not going, through the woods or anything. It will probably run parallel to the road. Right, but there's a separation between the two facilities. So, I don't know about the marshes and the creeks, if you will. There are certainly areas where we are proposing to cross some of the creeks, and so it would necessitate a pedestrian bridge or something of that nature. But we did, in making the loops and coming off of the main line, look at what attractions would we try to get people to. And we are trying to get people to see the nature and the beauty of the coastal area here in Brunswick County. That was one of our main focuses. One of the things that adopting this plan will get you is when you do have developments come to the town and they want to develop in an area that is along this plan, you can say, hey, we have this adopted document. We'd like you to include this portion of our segment of the East Coast Greenway in your development. So it can definitely be used as a tool by the planning department to institute those kind of things. We don't have a set timeline. It's a 3,000-mile corridor. Everywhere up and down is building segments as they can. Once you build a segment, you apply to the East Coast Greenway folks to get it designated, and they'll give you signage and all of that stuff. But it's just kind of being done at the pace that it can be done, and there's no set timeline for this. Yes, sir, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Some in Wilmington, as a matter of fact, and also some along the the internal route through the Raleigh-Durham area and all that. Yes, sir. So the route was kind of done already. The East Coast Greenway folks kind of decided that. And I think it's because they, wanted to come to the coast and they wanted to get to Wilmington and then took the ferry across, and then that's just where the ferry takes you. Which is why when we were doing it, we not only looked at the 211 corridor, we also wanted to put some routes off of the 211 corridor, again, to kind of get people into the nature and get people into the actual communities. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yeah. So unfortunately, we couldn't get the multi-use path included in the section that's about to go to construction. The complete streets policy and all that wasn't in place when that was being planned. But the remaining segments will include a multi-use path on the other portions of 211 as it's widened.
So from Midway all the way to 17, if everybody adopts this, this will be a way for us to get funding as a county for that shared use path.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Any further questions or comments? Okay. Thank you. That's an impressive presentation, an impressive project. We look forward to it moving forward, so thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Absolutely. Believe me, we have tried.
Well, I can say, while it's not a shared use path, the city will be paying for sidewalks from Robert Ford, or actually from Walmart all the way to where Robert Ford is. So it's something, it's not, a shared use bike path, but it's better.
All right. And thank you, Thomas Lloyd. Next item on our agenda, appointments to the Board of Adjustment and resolution for the ETJ appointment.
Mayor,
Yes.
were y'all going to make a motion to adopt the study?
Oh, if we need to, I apologize. Absolutely. I didn't know that I didn't know we needed to. Is that right? We need to make a motion to adopt the feasibility study.
That's probably, do you guys require a motion to adopt this?
Okay, yeah, it wasn't, it was on here, but of course I will do that, and I'm hoping it'll pass. I will entertain a motion to adopt this East Coast Greenway feasibility study. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Lombardi. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Again, our next item will be the appointments to the Board of Adjustment and resolution for ETJ appointment. And I'll call on Alderman Lombardi. And I want to thank all those who applied, and we appreciate all our citizens who volunteer to serve on boards. So thank you. Alderman Lombardi.
Yes, the chairman, vice chairman of the Board of Adjustment and myself met on February 22nd to interview 6 candidates for a city position and an alternate, 2 EJ positions and an alternate. We had 6 candidates, 5 for city and 1 for ETJ, all very qualified for the positions. The results: Jason Robbins, as an alternate, was elevated to full city position. Jason is a local realtor with vast experience in many fronts and will be a welcome asset to the board. Lowton Masker, or Tusk as he is known, is a professional engineer and will be city alternate. Amy Aycock, a biological systems engineer employed by Brunswick County, will be our ETJ representative. We were hoping to get more ETJ, but we have 1 and we're happy with that. We thank all that applied and encourage those not chosen to seek other positions. I just want to say a special thanks to retiring Jennifer Fontaine for her 10 years of service on the Board of Adjustments, giving her time and efforts to maintaining the integrity of our government. I make a motion to nominate Jason Robbins for the city position, Lowton Masker. Do I have to do these separately, or can we do it all at once? Okay. A city position, Lowton Masker as city alternate, and Amy Aycock. I recommend Amy Aycock as our ETJ representative to be approved, I believe, by Brunswick County.
Is there a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Mosseller. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And thank you, Alderman Lombardi. And thank you again for willingness to serve. Item 3 on our agenda. Resolution for B-City USA. I have just a couple of comments on this. First of all, if you will look at our state magazine, look at it online from April of 2020. On the cover is the front cover is Hive to Honey, and it talks about bees in North Carolina, and it's an excellent article, great photographs, and one of the things that I learned from that is that there are more beekeepers in North Carolina than any other state. So I'm glad that Southport is joining. Going to be, well, hopefully, will be a proud member of B-City. And also I'd like to mention Southport native James Wilson. He's a PhD. He's a professor of entomology, which of course is the study of insects. And he is an extension apiculturist. And for those of us who did not know what apiculture meant, it means beekeeping. So one of the reasons I love this job is I learn something every day. And his focus is on teaching people about bees and beekeeping classes and that type thing. And in particular, how to foster them, how to keep it safe, pollination, and that type thing. And from the I would like to just show one thing on the resolution there. One item is that it's about the integrated pest management. Of course, its goal is to minimize risk to people and the environment by identifying and removing the causes of pest problems rather than only attacking the symptoms like the pests and spraying. And it says in here that the pollinator-friendly pest management, that the under beautification volunteers and committee, it says create and adopt an integrated pest management plan. What it will happen, it really won't be just the beautification volunteers and committee. It will be working with city staff. They'll create and adopt an integrated pest management plan. And as we talked about at our workshop, it's one that is environmentally safe. We use other mitigation measures for mosquito control, and that the last control effort is spraying insecticide, but it will be the safest one possible, low volumes. And so I wanted to make that part clear as we move forward on this. So I will call on, I believe, Dorothy Dutton, who's been working hard on this to bring it to fruition. So, Madam Clerk.
I think it's working now. Sorry, just making sure we had sound over here. As we discussed in the workshop, the B-City USA was brought to the board for consideration by the Beautification Committee. Alderman Lombardi has been working with them as well, of course. But to summarize the program, the BUSA program, the Beautification Committee would take the lead in that program, and they must host at least one educational program a year. display at least one Bee City USA sign in a prominent location, maintain a website for the Beautification Committee with information about the program and links to the national Bee City USA website, encourage the use of native pollinator plants, and the city will adopt an integrated pest management plan, which we're already working on. So there's very little effect on the expense of the city. It's all going to be sponsored by the Beautification Committee.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution for Bee City. Bee City USA, yes. Motion by Mr. Lombardi. Is there a second? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem for the second. Any further discussion on Bee City resolution? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Madam Clerk. That's right. Claude, yes, this is great. Yeah. All right. Item 4 on our agenda, and this is the BB annexation, and I will call on our systems developer, Thomas Lloyd.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the mayor said, this is the Harper BB annexation, and William Beebe has petitioned the city of Southport for voluntary contiguous annexation of 5.14 acre tracts located at 1155, 1163, 1167, 1171, and 1175 North Castle Avenue. The property is currently owned by the Harper family, and the heirs have given the authority for him to petition for this annexation. So we have gotten that documentation. Upon receipt of the petition for the annexation, the city clerk investigated the sufficiency of the request. The clerk found that the request was sufficient, as well as with myself and the city attorney, we reviewed it as well. It has been determined that the request is certified as sufficient and that the appropriate certificate is attached. Annexation is a requirement for the provision of city water and sewer. Public utilities are available at this location. There is a force main there. These parcels are already within the ETJ, and they are zoned multifamily, so their rezoning is not necessary. They already have a zoning designation. So really, it's just time to open a public hearing and hear from the public and hear their thoughts on it. But the petition is sufficient, and we do have a resolution amending or an ordinance to extend the corporate limits if it's the board's purview to do so. But just to answer a question from earlier, I think there was a comment about the sewer service at this location and in relation to the 9th Street pump station. And just to clear it up for everybody, this area would not flow towards the 9th Street pump station. So I just wanted to make that clear. It would go north out of town. But I just jotted a note down because I had heard that earlier. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you. So I declare the public hearing open for this annexation. And anyone with a comment, question for Mr. Lloyd?
So with a multifamily zoning district, it depends. They could do single family or they could also do townhomes. It just kind of depends how they orient it on that property. Well, I mean, they have permitted uses in that zoning district, but they would have to meet our development standards for those permitted uses. Addresses, are 1155, 1163, 1167, 1171, and 1175.
I have a question. For how long have these lots been zoned for multifamily, and how long have these lots existed in this size?
So I can definitely answer how long the lots have existed in that size. They have been that size, I believe, since either 1915 or 1912. Mike's laughing because we've gone back and forth over these lots for a few times, but they were originally subdivided in the early 1910s, and they have remained that way since. As far as the zoning, how long they've been multifamily, I'm not sure on that. I could certainly research that. But my assumption would be that that area was probably zoned multifamily back when the Southport Green apartments and the Wintry apartments were built, which has been some time ago. But I don't know the exact date of how long they've been multifamily.
Any other comments during public hearing? Questions? Okay. Hearing none, I declare the public hearing closed, and I will entertain a motion from the board concerning annexation.
Thomas, can I ask a few questions first? For it to put multifamily in on a 0.7 of an acre, would that be 5 units that would be allowed in 0.7?
Not necessarily. I mean, they're going to have to do a major site plan for this, and they're going to have, different separation requirements and all that kind of stuff, as well as buffers. But, I mean, I haven't seen like an engineered drawing on how many they're going to do, but, multifamily is 11 units an acre, so I think that's where you came up with the 5. So it just kind of depends on how they lay it out, and they're also going to have some stormwater as well for that, some stormwater retention on that property. So it just kind of depends on how all the engineering works out.
Also, they could develop this as an ETJ property, right?
Yeah, I mean, they would have to have septic if that were the case, but they could.
Basically, they want to be annexed so they can get water and sewer. Is that basically it, Mr. Lloyd?
Yes, sir. That's what they indicated to me.
What's around there? Is everything around there, or around these lots, already in the city limits?
Not everything, but on that western side of Caswell, most everything is. If you look at the map there, they have 5 lots and one's actually separated by lot 15. But to the larger tracts where the Southport Green apartment property is, as well as the Wintry property to the north, both of those are in the city limits. And then it's kind of sporadic going south down Caswell all the way to 12th Street. Over time, people have annexed in as the properties are developed to get access to water and sewer.
Can you summarize the pros and cons of annexing this property, or these properties, these lots?
I mean, the pros obviously would be, and I mean, I think Mr. Fairley mentioned this earlier, but obviously there's tax revenue and, additional water and sewer customers. I think Alderman Mosteller kind of hinted before that their zoning is what it is. They can already develop to that density. I I guess the question is whether the aldermen think this is in the best interest of the city, when really everything around it and close to it is in the corporate limits. So that's up for you guys to decide.
I have a question for the city manager. Can our sewer system accommodate the sewage flow from these? This will be slightly less than 11 units. I mean, I know that they're going to get sewers, but is it going to be to the county or to us? Can we accommodate?
Yes, I believe we can accommodate those 11 units.
Said before, this would not flow to the 9th Street pump station. This force main goes north out of town in between Cades Cove and the Smithville shopping center there where the pub currently is. For them to tag on to this, if this annexation were to be approved, they would have to have, a pump station that would pump to that force main and then going out of town towards Sandy Lane.
And this, just so we're clear, this is located on Caswell before you get to Cates Cove, like if you're going up Caswell.
That's correct. So there's the Wind Tree multifamily apartments there right before Lord Thomas, and this is right before that area right there. Well, it wouldn't be the same size pump station, but they would have to have some sort of grinder pump for that development to get it into the force main.
And that's something that the developer would have to provide?
That's correct, and the developer would have to maintain it as well. I don't know because I haven't seen a proposal for the townhouses, but potentially.
I can answer that. I do. I live on Nash Street on a lot that's 33 feet wide. My house is 25 feet wide. I can literally reach out my window and borrow a cup of sugar from my neighbor, and I like it.
It may, I'm not saying anything either way, but these are non-conforming lots, okay? These lots were subdivided at the turn of the century, and this 33 by 99 foot lot was all over Southport. And so we don't have the option to rezone somebody's property unless they ask to be rezoned. What they're asking for is annexation to be included in, right? Go ahead.
The developer is here, actually.
What's important to note here is that this is not a rezoning. My whole point about mentioning those uses was that those are permitted uses in the multifamily zoning district. The zoning is what it is. This is about the annexation, not the zoning of the property.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say, that's completely irrelevant to the decision tonight. I mean, whether you annexed them or not, they're going to be able to build the same exact thing there. This has nothing to do with that. They've got permitted uses that they can comply with.
They're going to be using our streets anyway. They're going to be using our streets anyway, and this way they're paying for them. They're helping us to afford that. So, you know, I'm ready to make a motion to approve this and move forward.
Okay, yeah. I hear a motion by Alderman Carroll. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Allen. Any further discussion? Public hearing is closed, ma'am. Thank you, though. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Item 5, issuer level credit rating. Madam Clerk, Dorothy Dutton.
Thank you, Mayor. At the request of the board, I was asked to investigate the process it would take for us to get a basic credit rating. And I've spoken to Mr. Paul Spadaccini, at Moody's Investor Service to review the process. I have included in your packets copies of the applications and all the required paperwork. As I mentioned before, it's about $6,000 a year to maintain that. And he asked questions about why we were interested. I explained that we were looking into the possibility of general obligation bonds. And it was his recommendation that if that is something we are considering, that we kind of hold off until we apply for the general obligation bonds, because just applying for that issuer rating credit score will basically put a mark on our credit like it would be an individual person applying for a credit. But once we do the general obligation bonds, if that's the route that the board wants to take, we would get a credit rating or bond rating at that point, and then as long as everything stays in good order as far as our repayment, then we would have a great credit rating, basically.
Any questions for City Clerk or the City Manager concerning this, or the City Attorney?
I just have a question about the procedure of doing this again, and I apologize, Dorothy. But since we don't know what our credit rating is, because we haven't done it since 2002, is it? Okay, 2002. So 20 years we haven't done a credit rating in the city. And we've had issues in the past about some of our processes of turning paperwork in on time. Assume the board decides they want to go down the route of going for a general obligation bond. And we say we think that's how we want to go. We then go and have this process done at that point. We then find out what our credit rating is, and then we have to come back and decide whether or not we're going to do it in that fashion, raise the money in that fashion. Am I correct in that? That's how we do it?
From what I understand, the actual process of applying for a general obligation bond is going to be different than applying for the issuer rating. And so we wouldn't basically get an issuer credit rating at that point, we would get a bond rating.
Right.
And from what I understand, if we don't have any negatives that would show up if we investigated it, then we might as well be consider ourselves in the plus. And as the attorney and I have discussed, we have no issue getting credit when we need it to purchase fire trucks and things like that. So
we should be okay?
We should be okay.
Okay.
Any further questions? I will I'll entertain a motion as to whether or not you want to go forward with the at this time for this credit rating. You don't have to. This is just a decision that has been brought before the board, whether or not you want to go forward. We discussed at the workshop the possibility of general obligation bonds being used to fund infrastructure and that type thing. So as I say, I'll entertain a motion.
How long does it take before you can get the results of that inquiry? Is it something that happens quickly, or?
Specifics on that, I can certainly call him back and find out. I imagine it would take a few weeks to get all the information
Just a few
together.
weeks.
Probably, I would say a few weeks to a month.
I would like to see us table this until we get more information. So I make a motion that this be tabled for further information, such as timetable, etc.
All right, we have a motion to table this decision for now. Is there a second? A second by Mayor Pro Tem Marceller. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. This will be tabled for later discussion and later meeting. So thank you for that discussion. Item 6 is selection and appointment of a new city attorney. Again, not my favorite topic on the agenda tonight. So I'll turn it over to City Manager, Mr. Hargrove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier this week, you had the opportunity separately or in small groups to meet Norwood Blanchard, who is a candidate for the city attorney position here in Southport. Thank you all. Asked several relevant questions about his experience. Tonight, I would like you to consider to make a motion to appoint Mr. Blanchard as the new city attorney with a start date of April 1st, 2022 at a rate of $195 per hour.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to appoint Norwood Blanchard as the new city attorney with the start date of April 1st at a rate of $195 an hour.
Okay, Alderman Carroll's made a motion. Is there a second? Okay. Second by Alderman Allen. Mr. Blanchard is very enthusiastically endorsed here. Any further discussion?
Reluctance to make a motion or a second is because we don't want Mike to go.
That's what I'm thinking as well. We'll just drag it out.
I would say that Mr. Blanchard is a wise.
Yeah, I agree. It's in meeting with Mr. Blanchard, I'm very enthusiastic about him being appointed as city attorney. If we have to have a new one, I'm happy to have Mr. Blanchard. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, City Manager. Next item, committee reports. Mr. Allen? Okay. Alderman Carroll?
None.
Okay. Alderman Alt?
None.
Madam Lowe Davis?
The Forestry Committee is indeed going to have a in-person Arbor Day event, and it is going to be something very special. The Arbor Day, the Forestry Committee has worked on a walking tour to visit and find out about some of the really amazing and significant trees in Southport. And on Arbor Day, which is, let me remember here, April the 29th. I'll talk about this again next month. But on April the 29th, we'll gather at Fort Johnson. The mayor will make remarks, and these brochures will be passed out, and then we'll launch the first tour. We hope everybody will come and enjoy that. I'd also like to point out that you see these. These are now the way that the alderman and mayor will be getting all of our information. The idea is that we will stop killing trees and get rid of all the paper. That's probably a slow process, but that's the general idea. I'd also like to point out that the tree ordinance in Southport is very strong. And Judge Farrelly's remarks about clear cutting, certainly, I think everyone agrees with him on that. And this tree ordinance prevents that. The clear cutting that you've seen, one of the examples is across from Sacred Heart Church. Oh my God. That's not in our extraterritorial jurisdiction. It's not in the city limits. We had nothing to do with it. We had no say. And that's what happens. It's county property, well, not property, I'm sorry, county jurisdiction. And as far as I know, the county doesn't have very much, if anything, in a tree protection. So that's it from the tree committee, the forestry committee.
Thank you, Alderman Davis. Mr. Lombardi?
Yes, our last beautification cleanup was March 5th. This past Saturday, we had 19 people participate. What we did around the boat, the lifeboat, is we were going to remove all the plants because when the water comes up, it just kills it. And just all the mulch floats away. So we put 4x4 posts all around, and we're going to run a rope through it and just keep it grass that'll be weed whacked, and because it's just a waste to try to do anything else. We sanded and repainted the buoy post across the street from the boat that houses our first life-saving ring. And we gave it a nice fresh coat of paint. Weeding at the community building, Nash Fire Substation, and Garrison lawn beds. And a small group went over to the John Smith Cemetery and helped there also. So we got a lot done on Saturday. That's it.
Thank you, Alderman Lombardi. Mayor Pro Tem Mosteller.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Committee, earlier this week, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board met with the consultant, Dr. Jim Hirschstein, to begin the update process for the current 2015-2020 Parks and Recreation and Open Space Master Plan. By way of background, Dr. Hirschstein served as a professor in Parks and Recreation and has recently retired from UNC Wilmington. And along with Dr. Hirschstein, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board has begun work on reviewing and finalizing the survey that will be available online and in hard copy for Southport citizens to share their input into the plan, the future plan. Our Parks and Recs Director, Heather Hemphill, asked me again to emphasize the importance of completing these surveys. There will also be 3 public workshops to provide opportunities for citizens to be actively involved. Please be on the lookout. Tentatively, the survey and public workshops are going to be scheduled in May and June of this year. Citizen input will drive the success and outcome of this process and the planning goals in Southport's updated 2023 to 2028 Parks and Recreation and Open Space Master Plan. Also, the Parks and Recreation Department is in the process of completing the Division of Coastal Management's pre-application for public beach and waterfront access parks. This is the first step in the CAMA grant process to determine if a future kayak launch at the end of West West is eligible for CAMA funding, grant funding. Also, as a reminder, I just want to remind everyone, the Parks and Recs Advisory Board regular meeting is scheduled each month on the second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. at the Indian Trail Meeting Hall and always the public is invited. And then just a brief update on from the Streetlight Committee. The board has scheduled a community workshop meeting on April 6th, 2022 at 6 p.m. here in the community building. And the purpose of the meeting is to discuss the draft streetlight policy and the test light demonstration, answer questions, and provide the opportunity for citizens to share feedback. The demonstration streetlight fixtures include 3 different color temperatures and have been installed on Southwind Way. The test lights are labeled A, B, C, and D, and are the are the first 4 streetlights at the entrance of Southwind Way off of Stewart Avenue in the Hammocks neighborhood. The draft streetlight policy is posted on the city website. In the next few weeks, please take time to view the test lights and plan to share your thoughts and preferences at the special community workshop meeting, again on April 6, 2022 at 6 p.m. here at the community building. If you have questions prior to the meeting, please reach out to Alderman Davis, Alderman Carroll, or myself with any questions or concerns regarding the posted streetlight policy, proposed streetlight policy.
Thank you. Manager's report. Mr. Hargrove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only have one remark tonight. I would like to thank City Clerk Dory Dutton and our IT consultant, Eileen Hennessy, for the hard work that they've put in for these Surface Pros that the board, the mayor, and ours are using now. I know it's been a tremendous amount of work, and I just can't thank her enough and Eileen enough for everything they've done to move the city forward using this technology. So thank you. That's all I have, unless the board has any other questions they'd like to ask me at this point.
Thank you. Mayor's comments, and I will be brief. Again, I want to thank our city staff for their continued efforts for the city. We cannot thank them enough for all the work that they're doing. Again, I want to, along with Mr. Hargrove, thank our communications, tourism, IT department for the workshop this past week to help our city to continue to improve in information in communication technology. Congratulations again to Officer Jared Jeffrey, Rotary Officer of the Year. You don't have to attend, but we are going to have a special Board of Aldermen meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. if you'd like to come. And it's concerning a matter with an attorney. So you're welcome to come. We'll be here at 11 a.m.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, that is a closed session only.
I know we're going into closed session, but they can come. We will open it, and then we go into closed session is how we do it, not to contradict Madam Clerk. But so if they wanted to be here to see that, they certainly could. And I don't mean that facetiously. I mean, and you could be here for that to see the business of the city. But yes, we will be going into closed session. So thank you for that. Since we're talking about attorney-client issue. April 2nd, 2022, the 1922 Model T Centennial Car Show. April 2nd on a Saturday. There'll be a parade. It's going to be a marvelous event. And again, on this coming Saturday, March 12th, 4 p.m. In the community building, commemoration of the John D. Gill ceremony. Again, appreciation to the city attorney, Mr. Eisenberg. I'm going to drag this meeting out as long as I can, just because I like sitting with you and I've enjoyed it.
Don't blame it on me.
Don't blame it on you. I'm glad it was a long meeting. Thank you just for all you've done for our city and your continued friendship. So thank you. And Tish Hatem, thank you as well for your years of service. Thank you both. We're late for the ACC tournament, but Tar Heel start at 9:30, so we should be able to make it in time. And I wish everyone a blessed and happy St. Patrick's Day. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize, but could I have like 1 minute, please? So we've talked about the sewer project or sewer review project that we've done. And upon my review of that, I saw that I thought there was a gap in what you should have looked at. So we went from Owen Street down to the water. We studied that, and then we studied the street, I think it's either 10th or 11th Street. And then there's a gap from Owen Street to 11th Street that we did not study. And so a review of those pipes are the same pipes that were in the lower part of the city. So we really don't know the I&I for the city because those pipes are almost or as old as the other pipes. And so I'm going to be making a recommendation next month that we go forward with a review of that section of so we have a total I&I and we have a total understanding of what the total cost of the pipe repairs are going to be.
Thank you. All right. Staff reports, you have them in your packet, but also in here now, easier to read and that type of thing. Thank you for those reports. Board comments. Alderman Allen?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I want to kind of, I guess, piggyback a little bit on what Alderman Alt said. I want to say something about our sewer infrastructure. The fact is that this board has taken and will continue to take decisive and real action towards rectifying the problems with our infrastructure. We have allocated funding for the replacement of 3 of our sewer pump stations, and we have begun the RFQ process for the engineering required to complete this work, which is a necessary first step. And of course, we've already replaced our main sewer line that runs under House Street. We've completed comprehensive studies of our water and sewer systems and begun the process of prioritizing and funding the needs identified in those studies. Given these facts, I think it's quite evident that this board is committed to addressing the issue in an appropriate and active manner. And I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of the actual facts regarding that. Thank you.
Alderman Carroll?
Yeah, so I had the same note regarding sewer infrastructure. It is a priority of this board and will continue to be a priority of this board. I appreciate everyone who spoke out tonight or discussed subdivision, rezoning, and annexation. We heard that from several of you during public comment. That's an issue, and in the example of tonight's annexation, we can allow it to stay outside of the city limits and get no real benefit from it, or we can bring it into the city limits and capture benefit from it. It's going to happen with or without us doing that. So tonight was an example that that was the right thing to do for the city.
Renaud?
I'm going to support both of these gentlemen. Alderman Allen last at the workshop made a very insightful discussion that we have a lot of infrastructure things that we have to do. If you ask any one of us, we have, I'm going to use a term, others may not like the term, feel good, I wish we could projects. But those feel good, wish we could projects help the livability of Southport and how we perceive the city. We didn't get into this mess overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. It's about at least $100 million worth of repairs that need to be done. And so as we go forward, there will be other projects other than the sewer pipes, which I have been talking about for 3 years. I'm not Johnny-come-lately on that topic. But there are other topics that we will have to squeeze some money out of the system to get there. How we do that, is that the only way we focused, which has been, quite frankly, the way the city has run itself in the past. Obviously, because we wouldn't be having $100 million worth of repair bills if we had done it as we should have been doing it. As far as Robert's comments about the annexation, our vote here was strictly on that topic. Do we get this tax money or not? We can't change the zoning that they have for that, unless they wanted us to change it. The fact that the petitioner says he's not going for multifamily, he didn't even have to say that to us, because he's not bound to that, but I'm assuming he's going to go forward with the 6 houses.
Alderman Davis.
I'd like to call everyone's attention to the fact that the Women's Club will be sponsoring a student art contest, and the show will be here in this building from 5 to 7 on April the 22nd. I'll talk about it again next week, but this is really, every year, an amazing display of youth talent. The students are from South Brunswick, and there usually are many, many exhibits that are just amazing. I'd also like to point out that on Saturday, April the 23rd, will be the unveiling of the plaque at John N. Smith Cemetery, designating the cemetery as being on the National Register of Historic Places. And this is only the second black cemetery in the nation to be given this kind of designation. And I failed to mention, when I was talking about the Forestry Committee, the long-awaited tree plantings are scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, weather permitting, again, but 10 to 12 live oaks of decent size will be planted, and these are planted in the rights-of-way and on public property, not on in people's backyards. But you'll see a lot of activity around town. Public Works will be doing the actual work of digging the holes and getting the trees planted. And this replaces trees that have been diseased or have been damaged beyond hope by storms. So keep your eyes open. You'll see trees arriving. That's it from me. Thank you.
You, Alderman Lombardi.
Yes, I'd really like to thank Kate Singley, who's in our audience tonight, who was instrumental in putting the pollinator garden together and continues to do that, along with other volunteers, but I think Kate was the mover. Thank you, Kate.
Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just a couple of things. One, every year, the beginning of the year, we start trying to remind people that the June 1 deadline to take advantage of the North Carolina Homestead Property Tax Relief Program in the year, this year, the 2022 tax year, is quickly approaching. You have to apply before June 1. This is a good program. If you or anyone you know is 65 years or older, owns their home, and it's their permanent residence, and their 2021 household income was less than $31,900, they can file an application. It's an easy process to reduce their property tax by 50%. This will reduce both the 2022 county and city property taxes by 50%. Also, those who qualify, for those who qualify, there are two other tax relief programs, one having to do with veterans, and it's an exemption for disabled veterans, and a tax deferment program for higher income, people with higher income. The Brunswick County Tax Office can facilitate the application process over the phone, and you can reach out to our city clerk, deputy city clerk, Tanya Shannon, here at City Hall, and she can help you or anyone access that information. So please help get the word out, because this is a good program, and it's a way that sometimes people can stay in their homes. And then finally, my final comments. We do not have to look very far to know that volunteerism is alive and well in Southport. I am humbled by the commitment to our community Tish Hayden has demonstrated while serving on the planning board for 15 years. Humbled knowing that this was just one of the many volunteer hats she continues to wear. Tish Hayden, thank you for your service. Finally, Mike Eisenberg, you are a rock. A rock that has helped provide the foundation for many of the decisions that are guiding the future of our city. I am so very grateful for your years of commitment and service as our city attorney. I am so very grateful for your kindness and your patience, and for always returning my calls. I know, hey, I have no doubt. And I thank you for all your help. This is a bittersweet page to turn. On a personal level, Mike, I know you have given a lot, and I am happy you are taking some time for yourself. And while I understand that you will no longer be retained by the city, I feel fortunate because I have your cell number. Mike Eisenberg, a trusted advisor, a valued friend, thank you. You are the best. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Beautiful remarks, and this has been it's been a fantastic meeting. It really has. I've enjoyed it. I think that, we move forward. We heard from the citizens, but if you're not looking at what we're putting on the website and the information, then we have talked about infrastructure. We are talking about strategic planning. Alderman Allen says it well. I try to say it well, and I think I do. If you look at the last mayor's update, if you have not read it, if you have not heard it, you need to go to that. There are 3 documents on the website you need to see. That what I do is I speak for the city, but I try to let the citizens know where we are going, where we've been, and what our future is going to look like. And if you're not looking at that, then you're missing out. And I appreciate everyone coming to these board meetings and watching. We have a very talented board, and we are moving forward. Very, very proud of the work they do, very proud of what our citizens do. And our citizens are marvelous. We live in a beautiful, wonderful city. And so let's not forget that, and how fortunate we are to be here.
One more thing.
Absolutely.
I forgot real quick. This kind of slipped by, almost slipped by me, and it probably slipped by a lot of other people, but one of the items on our consent agenda was the donation of water rescue equipment to the fire department. And I think this was apparently by an individual. It's $86,000. It's a brand new truck, a brand new boat, and a brand new trailer to put it on. I believe the same individual that bought and donated a fire truck to us last year. So that's an amazing, talking about the spirit of volunteerism and generosity and community mindedness. That's pretty good.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Yeah, so just one more example of how blessed our city is. And so let us move forward. We're going to move in the best way forward. And thank you, board, tonight. Thank you, city manager. Again, city attorney, I'll text you during the game in just a little bit. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mayor Pro Tem, and second by Mr. Lombardi. All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.